Hello and welcome to I'm Not a Player, I'm a Gamer podcast. I'm your regular host, Miles. For those watching on YouTube, you can see I'm actually joined by two people today. So I've decided to branch out a little bit and try and get some people on who can talk about more the involvement of gaming that I've had. Because with both guys, they've experienced my level of gaming, which is not professional whatsoever. But they've also spent plenty of time actually playing together in different forms of games. So it'll be good to get into that chat. As I always mention at the start, I just want to thank everyone for any feedback that we've had. This will probably be further down the line, maybe episode 6 or 7. And the starting episodes that we've had the feedback's been incredible. So as always, I'm really appreciative of everyone who's getting involved and sending the love, and hopefully this thing keeps on rolling. But without further ado, those watching, I was going to say, to my flip camera, to my right, I am joined by Neil Tora. Neil, hello, how are you?
Yeah, good, Miles.
And
Thanks
then
for having me.
no worries at all. I'm also joined by Kieran Ayapa, who is down below me.
Hey Miles, how's it going? Thanks
It's
for
important for everyone
having
to
us on.
know that I've known Key as Key for ages, and it's only just as this podcast started that I was like, I should probably learn what Key's last name is, which is awful of me, but also it shows my preparation that goes into this sort of stuff. I guess to begin, I'll start with you, Neil. Normally, I've had some people on who are involved in gaming in some sort of way. Day to day, what is the life of Neil?
Well, so currently, I'm an engineer, a robotics engineer, work for a company called Hamilton Robotics. So we basically do automation for labs. Yeah, that's kind of my day to day. But previous to that, I've worked in forensic science as a DNA analyst, and then worked in the sort of technical field. And that's actually how I met you, Miles, obviously. So we're going back, what, 13 years ago? So some time now.
Yeah, I was trying to work it out. I was looking and thinking we'll get into like some of the early gaming days that we had together, but I was trying to work out how long ago it was, and I realized it was probably
13 years.
I think I was 19. So yeah, 13
Yeah.
years. I just turned 19 when I started off in forensics.
Yeah, so that's, in terms, I know, I've listened to some of the first and second episodes so far of the podcast, and we're not your usual crowd in terms of professional gamers or anything like that, but gaming's probably been a part of, I know, definitely mine and Key's life since we were kids, and yeah, going back to some old school games that we'll probably talk about in a bit.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Key, how does day in, I was gonna say day in the life, but your day in the life seems a lot more exciting than what my day in the life is than a lot. But day to day, or
So
even like the past few years, what does Key get up to?
currently, I'm a car detailer. I mainly deal with classic cars, restoring cars, and I own a pub as well. I've owned a nightclub in the past. Yeah, and monks doing all of that. I've always been gaming. Obviously not professionally, but just for fun. So yeah, day-to-day life is very different. Not every single day is the same, which I'm very grateful for.
Oh well, on the Instagram, whenever I see the cars that you've got detailing, it's fun. I'm now looking outside of my car going, oh, I've got my Fiesta. I like my Fiesta, but the cars I see that you're detailing are the sort of cars that I'd love to have sitting outside my house.
Hey, listen, a car, it doesn't matter what car it is. I treat every car the same. It can be a Fiesta ST, or it can be a Ferrari 488 or 458, or you know, a Jaguar E-Type. They're all the same to me. Just different methods and different approaches. That's all it is.
I try and drive my Fiesta like a Ferrari, but it doesn't have the same. I have the Ferrari red, but that's about as far as it goes. I guess to start off, you guys both mentioned obviously. So me and Neil have known each other for best part of 13 years. How far back do you guys go? What's the time
Oh,
scale we're talking?
Ooh.
I've probably known Neil since what, 95, 96. So I
Yeah,
must have been about 12, 13, and Neil would have been about
yeah,
7 or 8. And yeah, we just used to mess about. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, it's
mess
been
about.
coming into about 30 years soon, so yeah.
Which
Yeah.
which will age a lot of the people, because the thing that I always find fun on the podcast is I've had a range of people on of different ages. So we've had me and others that are in their 30s to 40s, but then we've had some that are in their early 20s. And when you mention certain things like you guys saying that you're known since 95, there'll be people that weren't born in 95 that are
Oh
going to
yeah,
appear on this, and
100%.
it ages you fast.
Yeah.
So I guess if it was 95, can you guys remember, obviously apart from like messing around on the shoes and stuff, like how you first got into, was there like a console that you guys first got into when you were playing together, or even before then, like was there like a console that you can remember starting with where your like gaming
So
started?
for me, I remember my mum had bought an Amstrad, and there were a couple of games that we could play on it. And I remember one of the games was like a Bruce Lee game, and another game was like a Dan Busters. That was my first sort of experience to gaming. And then the first console we ever got, me and my brother ever got, was a Sega Master System. And I remember we used to play a game called Shinobi, which was brilliant.
Revenge of Shinobi.
Absolutely
Yeah, I played with the second one, Revenge of Shinobi. Yeah, that was a good one.
good game. That was a really, really good game. That was sort of my introduction to sort of gaming.
Yeah, what about you, Neil? What did you start with?
Ooh, so there's two things really, because we got a PC really early, Windows 95 around that time as well. But we also had a Mega Drive, but it wasn't the Master System, it was the Mega Drive 2. So the one that was like 32-bit or something, a bit of an upgrade. So in terms of console gaming, the first games I played were like Sonic, well, Sonic 2, I think, because that was one with Sonic and Tails,
Yep.
aka Miles.
Yeah.
And then Streets of Rage,
Yeah, I remember that.
Lotus Turbo Challenge. And the thing about that game that I still love is the soundtrack in that game is wicked. It's like proper 16, 8-bit, 16.
Yeah.
No, I think it was 16-bit. I remember now. And then what else? I think those were the main three games I had. Echo the Dolphin. I know you mentioned it on one of the other podcasts.
Echo the Dolphin. The hours I thought I became a serious gamer as I got a little bit older, but when I look back, the hours that I put into Echo the Dolphin I feel like I deserve some form of like sponsorship from that game. And if they ever remastered it, then I'd be in trouble, because Sega Mega Drive. My three were Sonic, Echo the Dolphin, and Lemmings.
Yeah.
And then I remember FIFA 96 came on, and it was FIFA 96 and 97, and it's the first time that they had indoor football on a FIFA. And it completely blew my mind that there was this different version. I mean, playing football on a console anyway blew my mind. But I remember, we're quite lucky, we still have one of the only collections I still have is I have all my FIFA games since 96, either on Mega Drive through to PS1, PS2, and all the way through. And yeah, Echo the Dolphin, man.
Yeah, that was good.
Well, I remember for me I think when we eventually did get a Windows PC, we had FIFA on the PC, but it was like sort of
Angled.
like diagonal. Yeah, so it was literally up, down, left, right, spacebar, and enter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those are the only buttons that we could use for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, those used to bring back memories.
I think 1996 or 1995, 1996, I remember, because we got a Windows 95 PC, and then the first game I played on that, because I kind of flitted between console gaming and then PC. But for PC, weird, but I remember my uncle bought me Tomb Raider, the original Tomb Raider, right, Lara Croft. But for some reason it came in like a bundle with a joystick that you'd fly like a plane with. It doesn't make sense. So my first experience on PC was playing Tomb Raider with a joystick. I don't know. I made it work. But yeah, that was the first PC game. That blew my mind. And I look at the graphics now, and it's all like, like pointy. It's horrible.
Listen, a lot of people's first love was Tomb Raider, Lara Croft Tomb Raider with a pixelated breast. Listen, there were right angles everywhere, and you did not mind. Like you're mentioning playing with a joystick and Tomb Raider. I didn't know where this conversation was going then, but Tomb Raider was. Oh man, I loved. Someone's done someone had done a video of all the sound effects of the Tomb Raider all put together, and it's just grunting for like 4 minutes straight, and it's Tomb Raider was the best. I remember
that was awesome.
PC. I briefly remember playing. I'm sure it was like the Lion King or something. I think there was a Lion King game out on PC or something like that, and I remember. I think that was the first time I properly played, because PC gaming for me was when I was much older. I didn't start young. I started much older with it. Either of you do Nintendo 64?
Yeah, well,
Yeah, yeah,
that
obviously.
was
Is
sorry,
that the
go on.
natural progression? I was going to say, did he go on Mega Drive 64?
No, Kieran. Well,
Uh,
Kieran actually had the 64. That was like that's the console I remember from when we were kids. When I used to go around to his house and he used to have N64. And the game the classic
obviously,
game that we used to play, obviously, it was
GoldenEye.
GoldenEye
Yeah.
was the one. And then Mario Kart,
Star Fox.
Star Fox, and then Super Mario. What was Super Mario World or whatever it
Yeah.
was as well. Super Mario 64, or whatever it was. Yeah, that was those are the games we used to play. But yeah, GoldenEye was that was the one because we just used to be me versus you really. But we used to come up with all the different
Yeah.
game modes to try and make
Oh,
it
yeah.
fun, like Golden Gun and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or we used to do that level or like only using rocket launchers and stuff like that. But I remember that.
I was going to say,
I remember once
which one was
I had to
Oddjob?
like,
Well, okay, I think
oh, Neil.
everyone used to fight. No, we used to fight to be Oddjob because Oddjob
Oh,
was
I
obviously the
remember you
best
just had the
character.
choppy hand, and then Oddjob would just lob a hat, and you'd be darting them on. You saw a hat appear.
It's
and
because
you'd
he
be
was
running.
so short. No one you just get really close and no one would see where
Yeah.
you are. But my tactic was I can't remember what level it was, but it was the level where you could hide in the corners, like there was a secret, like the little secret bits.
Yeah.
And then I used to set up
Bunker. Was that the bunker?
I think
Oh, the remote
bunker, yeah.
mines.
Yeah, proximity
Proximity
mines and
mines.
remote mines. You just set them up and just wait and then be like,
Yeah,
boom.
we did unlimited ammo. In the moment you got mines, and you just plant mines in the entire map, and then you just hide in one. I'd hide in the toilet cubicle,
Yeah.
and I'd set off the mines, and obviously like there'd be a delay, and you just hear them going off in different areas, and people just running around, suddenly dying out of nowhere, and then they'd spawn back and die again because you set them in so many different areas that just keep on going off.
So
Great
yeah, that
game. Absolutely fantastic game. I remember once, like, it was me and like three of my cousins. We were playing four-player N64, and we wanted to try and crash the N64. So we all got into the same room, and we literally started shooting each other or shooting up in the air, and it was just filled up with so much smoke. I think we crashed the N64. Stopped, and it was one of them ones. We had to take the cartridge out and blow in it. It was one of them ones.
oh
Oh,
yeah.
kids won't understand the pain of sometimes when you have to put a cartridge in and it wouldn't work. Like, what is it where you have
Yeah.
to turn on the console and it wouldn't work?
Think-
You have to take it out, blow on it, and then put it back in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, but remember, this is the day before memory cards as well. I remember Mega Drive 2, like it took me best part of 3 days of having the console on to try and complete Sonic 2. And I remember I got to one of the last levels, it was like the sky level, and my mum turned off the console. And I was
Oh.
like,
Oh,
I never actually completed that game. And I was just like, oh, gutted. But it's crazy though. That I don't think I could play a game like that now and get through it because it is the amount of time and effort and dexterity required for those like platformer games compared to modern games nowadays.
Oh, when I try and do some of the remastered games that are out now, it sounds even something as simple as Crash Bandicoot. Like, Ella loves Crash Bandicoot, so I bought the game and they brought out like a remastered Crash Bandicoot, and you forget how much like how difficult it was to actually play the game and the rage that I built up. Like when you're younger, it's all you knew. And then I think we've had the luxury of like games almost becoming more story mode and it's not that difficult to play. Oh, I could have gone through several controllers playing Crash Bandicoot. Like it enraged me so much trying to play that game. Mario Kart. Do you know what characters you'd always go when you played? Was there a particular character?
It was either
can't
Yoshi.
remember.
I remember I always used to go Yoshi or Toad. Those were the two
oh,
characters.
Toad! Shit,
Yeah,
yeah.
Toad. Yeah, because Toad was the lightest. It was the fastest.
Lightest and fastest, yeah.
Yeah, fastest. And then Yoshi was just like the greatest all rounder. And then, but yeah, I remember I used to. But if you came up with it up against anyone like, was Donkey Kong in the original one? I can't remember.
Donkey
Or
should
Ba-
have been was he in the original actually?
But I know Bowser was in the original.
Yeah.
You come up against Bowser, or King Koopa, and yeah, you'd just get flattened.
That was
But
Peach.
It was good.
I always
the
went
thing
Peach
that-
for some reason. All the way through my life, it was like no matter what version of Mario I played, if there was an opportunity to be Peach, I was always Peach for some reason. That's always the one I went.
But I remember the thing that used to frustrate me the most is me and Keith play Mario Kart, and he'd figured out the timing for the start boost, and I didn't know how it, and I used to just be like, "How are you doing this?" And you're like, "I'm not telling you." But yeah, no, we had many hours played. I think that we used to just play Mario Kart. And what I remember the level on Mario Kart we loved was the ice one.
Yep.
You know, where like it was
Yeah.
like a big central thing, and then it was all just ice. Yeah, that was awesome.
It was the
But yeah,
Rainbow Road jump.
Going back a few years.
it's going
Could
back.
any of you
Yeah.
do the Rainbow Road jump where the moment you spawned, you go around and on the first corner, if you jumped off and you nailed it perfectly,
Oh,
you'd land halfway down the track.
yeah. No, I remember seeing that.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I never
I
managed to
put
do.
hours in just trying to do that, just trying to master that. And the amount of times that you jump off, and the moment you've failed once, it's like, oh, I failed now. But the best thing about
Yeah.
Mario Kart is obviously you get the OP weapons when you're in last, so you can sort of get back to it.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
in terms of consoles, so after I had the Mega Drive, I didn't actually. So I said moved on to PC, and I think Flight Simulator 95 kind of got into that a bit after Tomb Raider, and then I discovered like Unreal Tournament. I don't know if you remember that,
Yep.
Quake, um,
Quake, yeah,
yeah,
Doom.
Counter-Strike, Doom. Yeah, those were the ones. And then I kind of that was like the beginning of getting into like FPS games,
Mm.
FPS, and yeah, I can't. I mean, now I still don't understand how people play FPS on console. It's just like so alien to me because I just started out with a keyboard and a mouse, and I just can't. I tried it so many times, but I just can't. So, but yeah, it
Yeah,
goes
same.
back to Unreal Tournament was great. It was such a fast-paced game. Um, so played that, and then I think from there I didn't actually get a console till what's the first console? PlayStation 3. That was a
Also,
mass.
you missed so you would have missed the PS1, PS2. Did you
I
ever involve?
played them,
Oh
but I
yeah.
didn't. I played PS1 and PS2, but I never actually bought one. So it would be like, friends or cousins. PS1, yeah, like games like Tekken and those were the classics. But yeah, I missed out. I missed out on a big chunk, but I went handheld because I kind of had a Game Boy. Um, Pokemon was, the that like you said, that was just the game that took up most of the time on Game
Tetris.
Boy. Tetris was a classic. I did, one of my
Yeah,
cousins had the
classic.
original Game Boy, like the brick one that was huge, and Tetris, yeah, and they were good on it. Like they used to complete Tetris, and yeah, it was so difficult. I got the Game Boy Pocket, and it was basically a smaller version, but like with the see-through cover, and you could see all the
Yep.
electronics inside. Um, and yeah, then Pokemon, I played it, Pokemon, Tetris, Bomberman. That I remember playing that as well.
Oh, Bomberman, at the moment I found a website that had Bomberman on the PC, I was like, I remember at high school, like the amount of times I was getting kicked out of IT lessons because I was just there playing Bomberman with people.
Yeah.
And then the moment I'd found a way to get it on the PC, it was like, oh man, I love Bomberman. Like, the amount of time I found that a lot of my gaming in the early days is what would enrage me to keep me going. It's like, how do I get better at this game? Because Bomberman, I was so bad at that at the start, but then proper forced my way into it. Pokemon. So was it what? Pokemon Red, Pokemon Yellow to start with,
I had I was like, I remember
or Pokemon
everyone
Blue?
had. No, I had green, the Venusaur one. Yeah.
Ah,
Everyone picked Charizard or Blastoise, but I picked Bulbasaur
yeah.
and started off with that. I was like, and then I remember after that, I'd got the Game Boy Advanced, which was like, the color one. They changed the format so it was more like a traditional controller with
Hmm.
the screen in the middle. And I think it was Pokemon Silver on that
So,
one.
yep.
Yeah. And then what other games I play? I had Gran Turismo, I think, on there as well. But yeah, and then Mario I also had Mario Kart on that. And I remember we used to play with like a four-way link cable with like at school. He used to sit and play four-way link cable. It was pretty cool. But yeah, then I didn't really touch console for a while then, apart from playing like friends' consoles and stuff.
I was gonna say. So, what about you then, Keith? So obviously you had the 64. Did you keep on going through consoles after that, or were
Uh,
you the same?
no, so for me it was mainly PC gaming. So I used to love the original Need for Speed. So I can't remember what car. There were only like a couple of cars on there. I remember there being a Dodge Viper and some sort of Ferrari or something. So I was playing that for quite a bit, and then I moved, and then sort of Medal of Honor sort of came out. That was brilliant. So I again like FPS for me has always been on PCs. It's never been on consoles. I can't again like as Neil said, like I can't get my head around playing first person shoot 'em ups on the console. But yeah, uh it was mainly just PC, and then I think I remember we bought I think we got a PS2 or PS3, but my cousin used to have a PS1, and we used to play Gran Turismo on it. And I think the first GTA, Grand Theft Auto, we used to play. I think it was on this
Actually, the
PlayStation
first
2. So
I do remember the first Grand Theft Auto. Actually, no, I think it was a second Grand Theft Auto that was on PC, and it was Grand Theft Auto London
Hmm.
with a second one or
yes,
third one, and it was
yes,
top. It
yes,
was a
yes,
top down. It was top down view as
Yeah,
well. It was like
bird's eye
completely
view.
yeah, bird's eye view. And I remember playing that on PC as well. There were so many games actually on PC that I actually, and I think that was it because it moved out of consoles, and then PC was kind of up and coming in terms of the games on there. But yeah, I remember that. That was quite a brutal game for for a top down. But yeah, that was awesome. I'm trying to
yeah.
think
Grand
what
Theft Auto
else.
was a great game.
Just
Grand Theft
because
Auto
it's
was a
weird
game.
because I never done PC gaming, so it's weird actually that like a lot of people they find that they have console, and they sort of develop into PC. So
Mm.
it's good that you have actually had the advantage of like being used to keyboard and mouse before you've then gone to controller. So did both of you always stick with PlayStation? No form of Xbox.
Well,
No,
you
so I bought an Xbox because Neil bought an Xbox and because you had an Xbox.
well, I bought well, yes, going back 13 years. I remember, and I had the PlayStation 3 at the time, and I remember I bought the
Yeah,
PlayStation 3 because of GTA 4, I think that
Mhm.
came out. So I bought it for that game, and I was like, right, this was great. And to be honest, that game was revolutionary when it came out, when it was such a big thing, like a big
Oh,
step up
what San
over.
Andreas? San Andreas?
No, it wasn't San Andreas
The one
on
before you were about.
PS3.
Oh,
No, no,
sorry.
before.
no, 4. The one
Oh,
for San Andreas. So I had played Vice City PC. I
Vice
played San
City.
Andreas. Yeah, so
Yeah,
San Andreas on PC. And then when GTA 4 came out, I was like, this just looks amazing. And that it was the one with Nico Bellic,
Yeah,
that guy
yeah, yeah.
drew. And then yeah, that's when I got a PS3, and I was at uni at the time. So it was actually me, one of my flatmates or uni mates at the time. We was like, shall we just go halves? And we both like kind of bought it together. Um, and yeah, that was an awesome game. And then after that, oh, I've lost my train of thought. What were we, what were we actually talking about?
So we're on about getting the Xbox. So
That's
obviously you
it.
had the
No, yeah,
PS3 with GTA.
yeah. So I when I moved up to Runcorn and we started working together, I was like, right, everyone, asking everyone. And I remember asking you, and you're like, oh no, I'm into Xbox. And I was like, oh okay. And I remember asking Chris, and I was like, oh, do you play? Have you got a console? He's like, oh yeah, I'm on Xbox. Everybody. I remember asking Jamie as well, Jamie Sumner, and he was
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I'm on Xbox. And I thought, I'm gonna have to get an Xbox. So then I was like, right, that's it. So then I ended up buying an Xbox 360 within the first couple of months, and then I convinced Key to get one as well. And then that was
yeah.
the start. That was the start of it, really. But that just goes to show in terms of the social aspect of it. It's such a big part of like being interactive and stuff, and in part of the social circle and friends. So it's not just like I just game alone. It was to be part of the community of all your friends around
Mm.
you and stuff, and be involved. So yeah, that was the main reason. But yeah, apart from that, was the only Xbox I've ever had.
I was trying to work out what game it was we were playing when we were on 360 that made us all, or was it just
It
like you
must have
said?
been FIFA.
I
It
mean,
was FIFA.
FIFA sounds like the obvious. Yeah, I mean,
It
Yeah.
was FIFA 15, I think, at the time.
yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, I think with the Xbox, I think it's what you said is that I found the Xbox was better for social situations, whereas the
No.
PlayStation was always better for graphics. So as I got older, I went back to PlayStation because I
Mm,
preferred the gaming experience and it sort of caught up. But there was definitely a part where when Xbox Live started, it was so much more ahead of like PlayStation. But then,
definitely,
like you
yeah.
said, it's just down to who's playing it. I think if you'd come to work and me and Chris and Jamie had all said we're on PlayStation, we would have stuck with PlayStation. It's
Probably. Yeah,
yeah.
probably. But I do agree, like the Xbox, like they were quite good with like, the avatars and those kind of things, and having like, the community spaces where you could join. I remember I think the Xbox I got had the Connect with it as well, and
Mm.
that was a big thing, obviously. Obviously,
Gosh,
the,
yeah.
yeah, the Nintendo Wii was kind of like the start of the whole Wii Sports and stuff, but the Connect kind of built on that success, and then yeah, that kind of took it to the next level. But yeah, it was very much I remember the three. I mean, that was kind of what the Xbox 360 was about. It was like the social experience of gaming and the Xbox Live, and trying to bring groups together, which was basically its USP. Obviously, it was pretty good in terms of graphics and stuff as well. But I think the main games we played on there, FIFA, Forza. That's when we kind of
Forza.
got into the Forza series, and I think that was about it. There's a few others like classic ones, that Alan Wake and all that kind of stuff, that were only Xbox at the time, which were great games. But yeah, that console kind of, I only really bought that because of you, to be honest.
Well, before I start going into there will be a rabbit hole of what happened to gaming when me and Neil started playing together, and different games, and then with Key as well. But before then, like, can you remember when you two were growing up? Like, were there any games that stood out, or any, like, I straight away, I can imagine with the two of you, like Tekken or Street Fighter. So there must have been some form of like games like that you used to play where it'd be quite competitive.
Tekken, I remember Tekken was a big one, and that was always the one that would come out, like if we were at a cousin's, like one of my cousin's house, or it was quite a competitive game. But yeah, it'd be a great game to have at a party, because it was just like, you play a couple
Leave
of
the kids in
rounds.
one corner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Winner stays on, sort of thing, and you just play. I wasn't really into football games. I think the first football game that I played was Pro Evolution Soccer, and it was mainly because Kieran was into it, and you were kind of into it more with your mates. And then I kind of got into it. But I've been all right at football games. I'm not, but nowhere near the level of you guys, obviously. I mean, there's many rounds of me trying to play you, Miles, and you just like scoring for fun.
I was very polite and generous in the way I played. I would
Yeah,
almost play one-legged.
10-0, yeah.
So, no, I'll pick a random team. You go who you want to go, and I'll pick a random team.
Yeah, it was one of them ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Neil used to get really frustrated when I used to play. All my friends used to get frustrated when I used to play, because I was like tiki-taka football, and
You didn't play
all
FIFA
that.
like anyone else played FIFA. It even angered me, and I was fairly good at FIFA. And like, you would pass it
I
around the
all,
back, and
all I needed was just one fast striker or one fast winger and one person in midfield that could pass the ball, and I would just open it up and bang, and that was it. It was gone.
I remember playing against you, and I picked like Brazil or something, and you picked like Italy, and you just had Pirlo just sat there in midfield, and I can't remember who, yeah, and I don't know
It would
how
have been
you were doing
Pirlo.
it. Yeah, that was it. And you were just crossing it over all of the defense, and then you scored. You scored about 5 goals, and I was just so
Was that
frustrated.
what? It was that Y. It was the Y button, wasn't it? And
chip through
Yeah,
the
ball,
lob
the through
through
ball, yeah,
ball,
lob through ball, yeah.
lob
through
through
ball.
ball got nerfed, and then they tried to get rid of it, and they couldn't. For years and years, FIFA failed to get rid of the chip through ball when it came to like being OP. And yeah, I can imagine you just get Perlo and you just go Perlo over the top goal.
Yeah. Every
Yeah.
time the accuracy was just ridiculous. He couldn't run at all. He
No.
literally was rubbish. But you just pass him the ball, through ball, goal. That was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's frustrating. But then I remember my tactic is, because I think it must have been, I can't remember which FIFA it is, but then not started to get good. But I remember, obviously, after playing with you, Miles, for a while, like some advice you gave me, and you were like, master the jostle. And then that's all I did. And I did literally, I used to just hound. And then I can't remember what button it is, but then you can bring in like this extra player. So that's all I used to do to Key. And it used to be, I just go full on defense, because he would just pass it. I
Yeah.
was like, right, that's all I'm going to do. And it used to find it like hard to break me down. So I used to go from like him scoring 5 goals, it would be like 1 or 2. Like, but yeah, it wasn't very nice to play, because I'd always like to just play direct football. As soon as I get it, I just go drive straight for the counter
But
attack.
don't remember all my uni friends and stuff.
Yeah.
They used to do the same thing. Like, I remember one of my friends, his name's Matthew Monlouis. He's a legend of a guy, and we used to play. We used to have like Pro Evo tournaments at uni, and he wasn't very good. But all we used to say to him, he used to be Inter. So I remember he used to have like Zlatan on the wing and Adriano up front, and we literally used to say the
Run.
ball would be on the right wing, run, 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 and as soon as you get to the corner, cross.
Yeah.
And then whenever the other player had the ball, we just used to say to him, Monlouis, hound, hound, hound. That's all we used to do. That's all we
That's it.
used to do. And it just has become so frustrating. And then like that Neil used to start playing like that a bit as well. Like
Yeah.
when it was like when he started hounding, it was like, oh, not
Mhm.
again, not
Yeah.
again.
No, I remember I used to, yeah, like me and Neil used to play where we'd go around to Neil's flat. And funny enough, me and Neil lived in flats which are basically next to each other, so they were just buildings next
Yeah,
to
I
each other.
remember.
And Neil had the ultimate setup, which I basically copied. I directly copied
Yeah.
what Neil's flat looked like into my flat. Got the same projector, same layout. It was like a like for like look. I remember I'd play Neil at FIFA and it was fun. And then the first time I played Key Online, it was the most frustrating game in the world of like you enjoyed possession on it. And I couldn't get the ball off you. And it was like I can't play the game because you're just passing the ball on. But I couldn't do anything against it.
No, because
Yeah.
I used to love being Barcelona because I think it had like Ronaldinho, Xavi, can't remember who else was in the midfield. I think like Ambrosini or like Iniesta must have been just up and coming or something like that. But it just like I remember that midfield was just like absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah,
Great times, absolutely
it
great
used to
times.
tear me apart though. There was a time I often when people ask me about like how committed I was to FIFA and like trying to improve, and there was a time where often we'd finish work. There was almost like a system that we had every Friday at work with me and Neil, where we'd finish work on a Friday and we both biked to work up the top of this hill.
Mm.
And whenever we used to bike to work, Neil would bike up the hill. I wouldn't. I would just push my bike up the hill because I was too lazy and overweight to actually bike up a hill. But then you got the advantage of coming home from work. You were downhill and it was amazing.
Downhill. Hitting
Live your
30 miles an
Yeah.
hour, 35 miles an hour down the hill racing
Yeah, I had no
cars. Yeah.
brakes.
But then Neil, that's when you slipped, isn't it?
No, that was another time when it was icy and I slipped on my bike. Yeah.
Yeah, I had it sometimes where I'd take spare clothes with me. If I got wet jeans, I was in a foul mood. And we used to bike home every Friday downhill. Like I said, I decided to take the brakes off my bike because I thought it slowed me down. Now thinking about it, no helmet, no brakes was not smart. And we used to go to Kaylee's Chippy. I get salt and pepper chicken, and then we'd go around to
both, yeah.
Neil's, and we'd just we'd just game all night. And there was times when Neil would go to sleep. Also, I would always buy a crate of beer, or was it cider at the time?
No, it was beer. It was
Was
beer.
it?
It was either Budweiser. I think it was Budweiser. Sometimes it was cider, actually, cans. But like, yeah, you used to fill my fridge. I didn't really drink like beer a huge amount. I used to have the odd one or two. But my bottom half of my fridge was just stocked with Miles's drink because he would buy a crate. He'd like drink half of it, and then half would be left, and then it'd be like, right, there you go. So I had an awesome beer collection in that fridge.
I
None of it was
paid
mine.
my way through beer.
Was this the flat that had the shipyard at the back?
Yeah, literally by the shipping.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so
I
yeah,
remember.
because Neil moved in, and then I think it was about 3 months later or something like that. Because I was already living in Runcorn, I was like, right, I'm gonna get a flat there as well. And then we had Amy who had a flat in your block.
Mhm.
And then did Jamie have one as well, or was Jamie always elsewhere?
No,
No,
Jamie
Jamie.
did.
No, we'll get into Jamie's residence, which is unbelievable. But yeah, back with that. So we'd always bike home, and then Neil would at some point fall asleep, and there's a couple times where Neil would fall asleep, and I'm just sat there on Neil's Xbox on his Ultimate Team on FIFA, and I was convinced that his FIFA was easier than my FIFA because my Ultimate Team was like the matchmaking was used to my level.
Yeah.
So I'd come up against better players, and when I'd done unbelievable things on Neil's Ultimate Team. Like I remember I made a team. He had like 2K on it or something, and I made a team, and I had this Adrian. He was always great for me, but I played and I didn't sleep. I played the whole night on Neil's Xbox. I remember he came, woke up, and was like,
That was the night that Key was over at ours,
Was
and
it?
Chris
Yeah.
was as
"Oh,
well. There
Chris,
was the
yeah, of
four
course
of
he
us.
was."
Yeah, and we were all four of us were there. We were playing, and then for some reason we went to bed, and
Tournaments.
you stayed up all night doing this ultimate team, and you managed to win. You get into like the top tier and win, and then you went home. I remember the next thing and made the same team, and it was
terrible.
rubbish. Yeah,
I couldn't recreate it. I went unbeaten for an entire night with this team, made the
and you
exact
didn't
team on my
sleep.
FIFA, and
You literally didn't sleep.
I was running on whatever beer I'd bought and just the need to go and beat it. And I'd done it, and I made the same team, and they sucked on my console. And from that, they're like, you cannot tell me that matchmaking and everything else is not a thing on FIFA, because there was hard evidence there. I'm trying to think. So Yeah, we always played a lot of FIFA on the Xbox. Did we ever try Call of Duty or anything like that, or did we do Halo? Because
No, I don't.
I played Halo with my like earlier on. I remember on the original Xbox, I played like Halo 2 and Halo 3.
I never really got into Halo. I have played it, and I've played it
Yeah.
in co-op as well.
Yeah.
But I've never. I don't think we got into it at that point. It was mainly FIFA then.
Hmm.
And then I remember obviously then because we had the Kinect as well. We did the Kinect Sports, and we used to do that and with the projector, like the big screen.
Yeah.
Jamie's
So
library.
right, yeah, right. Jamie's library. So this is, I think, the second time that Jamie's library has been mentioned, and I feel at some point I'm gonna have to go back to the Runcorn, which isn't too far away from me, and see what's happening in that library.
You got to tell the story though. How did he come about it?
So I don't know if it's going to be better coming from you, but I'll see. I'll see from what I remember. So Jamie was another one of the analyst submission officers at our forensics company, and we had a really actually tight knit group. It was really good. Like we had like a good 5 or 6 of us that were all sort of in the same sort of area. We're all into the same sort of things. Jamie was always a slightly crazier version than the rest of us, I think is a nice way of putting it. Like he was a little bit out there, he was a little bit, but he always dressed like he was playing the Doctor in Doctor Who.
Yeah, that. Yeah, he was very smart. He was only one to turn up in like
Yeah.
a suit basically to work most days.
And he got the opportunity, he needed somewhere to live. So basically there was a library in Runcorn Old Town, and rather than paying for security to look after it, they paid for someone to live there, right?
Didn't he break up with his girlfriend and he basically
Yes.
he needed somewhere
He
to
needed
live
somewhere to live.
and he
So
found and he was thrifty as hell. So he found this thing where, what was it called? It was like a property guardian. That was
yeah.
it. Basically where you pay absolutely nothing, but you live in a property to kind of make sure people don't squat in it. But it's like really random properties. And this was the old public library. It
Oh
was
wow.
huge.
He had a front reception, which was the reception of a library.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh wow.
oh, did you never get the chance to come to the library, King?
No, never
Oh,
did.
so
I think you guys told me a couple of times.
It reminded me of when you walk in. Do you know in Ghostbusters when they first get their
Well,
new when they obviously go and get the headquarters and
oh yeah,
it's the old
yeah,
fire
yeah.
station. That it
oh,
just reminds me of that. It had
Well,
like one of those metal spiral staircases. It was just huge. And but yeah, it just reminded me of that. And yeah, it had a full-on
wow.
reception. Like some of the furniture was still there from the library. But yeah, I don't. It was an amazing space to be honest.
I think if I had the opportunity now to rent a library, I would 100%, because the main part of the library, I think, had been taken out, so the books have been taken out. So there was a massive open space, so big that at one point we did what felt
Five-a-side.
like five-a-side football inside a library.
I remember you guys talking about this.
So, and the thing I always remember from that is that Anne, who we worked with, decided to come and play as well. I remember she slipped on a floor tile, the classic floor tiles that you had, which
Yeah,
pulled off
the carpet floor
carpet
tiles.
floor tiles, and she flew. And I'm not exaggerating when I say she'd done like a full backflip. And the way she felt, I thought she had broke something. Just popped back up as if nothing happened. But we had a full 5-on-5 game of football inside the
Football.
library. Like his
Wow.
bedroom was a bed surrounded by books. Like I
Wow.
mentioned it to my partner, like she's obsessed with the idea of it just being like books in this whole room. But like the toilets were just public toilets.
Yeah, they had those classic green tiles, But yeah, it was crazy. It was a bit weird when I think about it now in terms of living there. But yeah, we had some good times there. We
Toilet
set up like
cubicles.
we set up an air rifle range
There
inside.
was one time that we were all there and we must have been making a bit of noise. And I'll get into the game that we were playing. Because one of my fondest memories involves this place. And I remember that someone was banging on the door from outside. So obviously they heard there was noise going on. And I can remember Jamie getting into the reception area of the library with his air rifle.
Yeah.
Basically threatening, saying, like, I've got a gun, don't come in. No, it was an air
Oh
rifle. I
God.
wasn't going to do much. But yeah, we set up like a little shooting range in the library. I remember we were shooting footballs and bottles of pop and stuff. And but yeah, so Neil had a projector. I stole the idea of a projector from Neil. I bought the exact same one, set up in the exact same way, but he brought his projector. So you've got to imagine you're in this massive library space, and then we set up a projector, and you're there like, right, what game are you gonna play? What game is great to be on a projector? So was it Guitar Hero or Rock Band? It was one of the two. I think it was Guitar Hero.
Guitar Hero, yeah.
And there was a song by The Strokes called Reptilia, which I mean, I still love this song, but I have the fondest memory of me and Chris Howe. I say air guitar, but we were legit guitaring on Guitar Hero, dancing around the library, screaming Reptilia. And it was the craziest experience. Like, if you had told me, like, people have like different like levels of how they gamed and stuff. If you told me at one point I'd be playing Guitar Hero on a projector in a library with your friends, it was unreal.
On like a almost 200-inch screen, basically on the wall. Yeah.
It was.
Do you still have that projector, Miles?
I got rid of so I'm not as smart as Neil. And when my projector started dying off a bit, which it probably just needed a new bulb, I'm sure Neil will tell me. I got rid of it and went back to a TV. But I think, Neil, do you still have yours somewhere?
I literally still have that exact same projector. Yeah,
We were FaceTiming each other last week, and he was like, "Yeah, it still works."
it still works. Yeah, still there.
At the time as well, the quality that it had it's really good for what you paid for. I don't know how it relates now. I can never remember.
You know what? I fired it up the other day, and it's still pretty good. I mean, 720p projector, but still for what it is, like well over 10 years old.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I actually got that at uni, so it was probably like 2008. So yeah, like over 15 years old.
Yeah.
And then before we get into like what we're playing nowadays, I was trying to think of the other memories that I had that involve gaming with Neil. And Key, you'll have to remind me if you ever did you ever come to the arcade club?
No,
No,
don't think
I
you have
didn't
been.
know.
So I think the arcade club to me was like, so what Neil was saying about how he had to leave his console on for like 3 days straight to complete a game. Like, the first time I ever got to complete Time Crisis was at this
Oh my-
arcade club, but it was the proper arcade Time
Yeah,
Crisis
yeah,
with
the
the
gun and
games
everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
because obviously you'd go to an arcade when you were young and try and play it.
Yeah,
but
you'd put in a pound or two, and
you
that's it. Like,
you were
yeah.
in debt if you tried to finish that game off. Whereas at this arcade club, you paid, what was it, £15 or something?
Something like that. Yeah, it's probably more now, but yeah, it is great. And then you basically go in. It's got all the old school arcade games going back to like Tron and stuff like that. Like really old school games. You'd
They-
enjoy it, actually. We should.
They
go.
had the proper Crazy Taxi.
Yeah,
The full
Crazy
Crazy
Taxi.
Taxi. I was, funny enough, I'll check on this. I'm convinced it's still going. Like you were saying, I think it actually costs a bit more because they've added a VR level. So they kept on upgrading it, but like you'd walk in on the first level, and it was just all the classic arcade games you can think of. They had Tron, the classic Star Wars, their Time Crisis, like Virtua Tennis 3, which was one of my all-time favorite games.
Oh, me and Kieran used to play that.
Virtual Tennis 3, I absolutely loved that game, and I played all the time. And then I played story mode on it, where I made a guy with a massive afro, and that was me playing Pete Sampras and stuff. I absolutely
Pete Sampras
loved
with
that
the
game.
serve.
Tim Henman, surf and volley. It was all you need. I love how they said like there was only 3 types of players that you could be in, and mainly surf and volley was that's how I learned to play tennis. You didn't have to run as much because it either worked or it didn't.
Yeah.
Did you ever play Fight Night?
I played Fight Night.
Yeah, we did as well.
Was a class game. Like, I don't know why they haven't brought that back or something similar. That was an absolutely brilliant game.
I'm waiting for Ready to Rumble as well. Ready to Rumble was like
Rumble, yeah. That was a classic. Did you ever play Football Manager?
I still do.
Of course you did. You still do.
It was funny enough, I loaded it up. So at the moment I'm playing 2023, not 2024. And
Right.
I've got a load up with Oxford United, and I'm into like year 19th season or something. So obviously no one's
My
real on it
God.
anymore. Haaland's
Yeah.
just retired. But you look at the time spent and it's like 210 hours or something. And you think to yourself, like, this is solid weeks at a time. But I'd done the same on Call of Duty at one point. But so when it came to football, not just Football Manager, so I had Champ Manager 98.
Yeah.
I had LMA Manager 2002 on the PlayStation. And then Football Manager, I had most years I got Football Manager.
I think I stopped playing it. Oh gosh, maybe about 2009. No, about 2010, 11 or something like that.
Yeah.
But well, we used to play it a lot at uni. It was mainly, I think, was it Championship Manager? Then it turned into Football Manager.
Yeah.
Yeah, Champ
Wasn't it?
Manager first, wasn't it?
Yep.
And then Football Manager.
So obviously, like being uni students and stuff, we had like cracked versions. We didn't pay for our games.
Yep. LimeWire gets heavily featured everywhere. When people are saying like they illegally downloaded a game.
LimeWire is still about. I saw them on Instagram the other day. They still have a page and they're still about. Anyway, what we used to do, like I remember my friends, like when I was where I was living at the time, like I used to play it on my PC, and my friend, one of my uni friends, Izzy, he used to bring his PC over to mine.
Oh, you used to use Hamachi.
Yeah, we used to use this networking thing called Hamachi, which would it was just like it created a network. So I used to get have an Ethernet cable that would go from my computer to his computer, and we used to just open up Hamachi, and it just used to be like an open network. It was just unbelievable, but it was Hamachi was like a game changer for playing Football Manager.
Yeah, they Football Manager have tried to introduce their own way of like where you can play online with your friends, where you're all playing the same league.
Yeah,
and it sort of works, but it's still not the same. It's not as good as that. It's not as good as that. The thing I still love doing on Football Manager is I will load up the editor mode, and I'll get a team that's really low in a low division, and change the names of all the players. So say I made a team of all my mates. But the amount of fallings out that I'd have with my friends, where like I remember there was one where it was all the people that I used to play football with, and there was my mate Greg O'Hare, and I had him up front, and I can still remember to this day when Greg got an offer from Man United and he left me, and I was furious at him, like couldn't believe it.
I definitely made one with you both in there. I think Neil, I used to have you as a DM. Miles, you were always a goalkeeper or a defender.
Makes sense.
You're one of the two. My cousin Sonny was always like a winger or like a number 10. My friend Yassin was always like talking about a number 10. I think I just made myself like a striker to get more goals. Yeah. That was funny.
But there were tricks to it, like so you needed to make sure that you needed to give yourself a long contract, because obviously if you're a non-league player, you just leave on a free transfer after a season because you're getting like 90 quid a week and there's no reason for you to stay there, but you'd max out all the ratings.
Yeah. Like
so you'd have a great season, but after one season, everyone leaves.
Yeah. No, Football Manager was brilliant.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of nowadays, I haven't dared a couple of the games that Neil plays when I pop over, but like, are you playing anything at the moment, Kenny? Are you PC? Are you PS5?
Yeah, I'm PS5. So I used PS5 and I use my PC. PC now is mainly like I've got the latest Call of Duty. Was it Modern Warfare 3? Really don't like it. Not a huge fan of it. So me and Neil, we played Battlefield
2042.
2042. And my cousin Sonny, who I'm going to get on a podcast as well at one point, he's a massive gamer, and he said that when Battlefield 2042 came out, the reviews were really, really shocking. Because me and Neil, we used to play Battlefield. Was it 2041? We used to play.
It might
The one
be.
where we used to do the co-op.
2041 rings a bell. I can imagine it's the right sort of year.
But we used to play co-op on it. But yes, I mainly play that on my PC. And in terms of my PS5, I've got FIFA. I've got the new whatever it's called. I can't remember what it's called. The new football game. I've got that. I haven't really played it much. Gran Turismo 7. I've just completed Ghost of Tsushima. Brilliant game. I'm going to start God of War pretty soon. So that's about it, really. Not really. I do game much. I don't game as much as I used to, but like me and Neil do play Battlefield quite a bit.
Yeah, as I say, Neil, you're on Ghost of Tsushima, right? And what else do you play?
Yeah, I completed Ghost of Tsushima, and then I told E to get onto it, and I was like, this is a brilliant. It was an unexpected game because that game actually came out on PS4, but then it ported over to PS5.
Yeah.
And then when I saw it, and I was like, actually, Stacey my wife bought it for me for Christmas. It took me best part of a year to that's how long it takes to complete. I mean, it is a long game, but it took me best part of a year to complete it. But yeah, it was really enjoyed that game. I tend to play a lot of the big, like IPs that get released, like Spider-Man, Miles Morales, all the kind of, AAA games that come down and stuff. I'm trying to think what else. God of War, I only recently played the original, the one that came out on PS4. I'm currently playing Ragnarok now. I tend to focus. I try not to basically play too many games at the same time. I like to basically, especially like the single player ones that have story mode. I'll try and
Story ones, yeah.
yeah,
Commit to
I'll try
one
and
rather than trying to
commit. Yeah,
bounce.
commit to one, complete it, and then move on to the next game. So the last game after Ghost of Tsushima, I played Hogwarts Legacy.
Mhm.
Played that all the way through, completed that, and then yeah, moved on to God of War, which I completed, and now I'm on Ragnarok. So to be fair, I get through games, but I'm kind of in a backlog now in terms of I'm not up to the latest game. So which is quite nice, I find, because once a game's been out like a year or two, obviously I'm not paying like 70 quid for a game now. That I'll just play
Oh,
stuff that are a year
yeah.
or two old. But there have been some unexpected games along the way that I've played that I really enjoyed, that like titles I've never played. Ratchet and Clank, for example, Rift Apart, the one that came out recently on the PS5, or with the release of the PS5 soon after. That was an amazing game, and it's not a game I would have really have played in the past. Obviously, I know there's quite a few that series. There's quite a few games out already. Have you played any of those?
What game you played, Neil?
Which one?
What was that? You were, what did you used to do? I think you were running around sort of London or New York or something like that, and you were code breaking
Oh,
or
Watch Dogs.
Watch Dogs. I was just
Watch
gonna say,
Dogs.
yeah,
Yeah.
Watch Dogs.
Yeah. So Watch Dogs, again, another one, like I played the first one, really good, and then the latest one was obviously I took it to a different level. They had like Stormzy in it and stuff like that, and yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed that game. But I've played a few of the other ones as well. I'm trying to think what they called. I can't remember. When I actually think about it, I play quite a lot of games. I'm not really fussed about, like, I tend to, if what I do now is I tend to go on and check like YouTube reviews of games, and if someone's like, yeah, this is a really good game, I'll be like, all right, yeah, go on and give it a try.
I
Um,
fully see it as I think I've always remembered it being that Neil will start playing a game, and then shortly after Keel'll start playing a game because he's heard that Neil has said it's good, and then I'm there like, all right,
yeah,
okay, I need to get involved in this game now.
yeah, but
yeah.
I think we've always like I kind of we always kind of have some like core games that like me and Key would play cooperatively. And to be fair, we prefer to play like cooperative
Yeah.
style games because, like I said, when we started playing Battlefield, we weren't even fussed about playing online. We were just playing the co-op, and that was one of the great things about Call of Duty as well. When I think it was at Modern
Mm.
Warfare,
The first one.
yeah, the first Modern Warfare, when you have the co-op missions,
Mhm.
sniper missions and
Yeah.
stuff, and you can do that. Like those are the sort of games that we really enjoy playing, and we kind of play together a lot. And then I think me and you, we kind of go through phases. Like we'll pick a game and we'll play it probably like for 6 months solidly, and then just move on to something else. Like we'll play Gran Turismo. When that first came out, we were like proper hard on just playing that, and we'd only play
Hard
that.
onto it, yeah.
Yeah, like like full on, not like professional sim racing, but we'd have steering wheels, chairs, and all sort, and we'd be playing it solidly. And then we kind of get bored of that, and then one of us will move on. And like I think with 2042, Kieran got into it first and was like, okay, yeah, I'll give this a try. And now we've been playing that recently.
We did
But
play it quite a bit, yeah.
yeah,
Well,
but
that turns perfectly into like, I know you guys both love your car games, especially like Gran
Yeah.
Turismo, but you mentioned Forza as well on the Xbox side. If I had to tell you to pick one, which is almost an impossible, like for me, I know what my favorite car game is, but I almost have like an honorable mention. So for me, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 on the
Yes.
PS, was it the PS1 or the PS2? That was my favorite. Like the idea where you'd race, but then you could also be the police car catching the people racing. I love. And then Gran Turismo 3. Gran Turismo 3 was the Gran Turismo I put the most hours into.
mm.
If you had to pick a racer, which I know, listen,
It's tough because I think now, I mean, if you asked me when I was younger, I would have told you a Need for Speed game. But now
Yeah.
I categorize those games into arcade style
Arcade style
racing
games.
and then sim racing games. I mean, even back then, like you had some games that were kind of sim. So, for example, okay, Need for Speed. Yeah, I was always into Need for Speeds. I think where I properly got interested into it. I mean, I played,
Underground.
yeah, Underground, the
Underground and
original
most,
Underground.
yeah.
Yeah, the original Underground was the one that was like, kind of tied in with Fast and Furious and stuff. And that's when
Mm.
like I proper got into it. But I played some of the other ones like Need for Speed, Porsche Unleashed, Hot Pursuit 2, some of the I think even the original Need for Speed as well, where they had like McLaren F1, or was that Need for Speed 2? I think it was, where the McLaren F1. So yeah, I played all of those, but then it kind of switched, and it was actually, I remember Kieran got me into this game. There was one game that we tried. It was called GTR, and it wasn't
Yeah, that was
actually
a fantastic
it
game.
wasn't actually a game to really. It was a simulator, like a full-on like simulator. But we got it on PC and we tried it, and it was really it was completely different from anything we tried before. Like we're talking like sim level sort of physics. No, we were just playing it and we spinning out, and we couldn't understand what was going on. But we actually kind of got fairly decent at it in the end, and we did play it for a bit. And then there were kind of a few interim games that we kind of got into, and there was like
Okay.
Toka Race
Yeah,
Driver. So
Taka I loved.
Oh, that was a
yeah,
brilliant game.
and that was good because that kind of like blurred the lines between arcade and then started getting into sim a bit more. And then I'm trying to think some of the other games. We played a few Grid. We played Grid,
Driver,
Grid
was it
2.
Driver?
Oh,
Grid 2, there was Drive Club or something, wasn't it?
I can't. Oh no,
Drive
there
Club
was
was separate, wasn't it?
no. There was a. I'm trying to think what it was. It was called Project. Was it Project Cars?
Project Cars. Project
Project
Cars.
Cars was a good one. That again, that was still kind of sim, but then I think the big one really for sim,
Assetto
obviously,
Corsa.
Gran Turismo was always there, and granted, we would play it, but mainly the earlier Gran Turismos 3, 4, 5, we'd play on the
Yeah.
console with a controller,
Mhm.
and then when Assetto Corsa came out, I think that was the big one. And to be fair, that
Big
game is
one.
absolutely brilliant. And that I think that took that. I mean, and a lot of people probably played Assetto Corsa, and I know people play iRacing as well, which is also really, really good. But Assetto Corsa for me, and I think for Key as well, like was the
Yeah.
one that kind of got us a bit more serious into the sim racing, like kind of scene. And that was brilliant. And now they've got Assetto Corsa Competizione, which is like the GT kind of
GT
cars,
Cars.
GT cars version, which is great as well. But we put a lot of hours into that game. And then I think we kind of flitted back to GT7. And don't get me wrong, I still think Assetto Corsa has the edge, really. But the nice thing about GT7, it had the car selection, the tracks. They
Graphics.
really the graphics. Yeah, they really stepped it up with the latest Gran Turismo. So we kind of jumped back onto that. But yeah, so it's hard. If I'm gonna say most memorable game in terms of for me in my head for like the arcadey style ones, I'm gonna say Need for Speed Most Wanted. That was the one that kind of combined all the Hot Pursuit stuff with the underground,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
that for me that was the pinnacle really. That I remember that car when you get the M3 GTR, with that livery. And yeah, that was just a really, really awesome game. And then in terms of sim racing, it's tough. Gran Turismo 7 at the moment is for me quite high, but I think I probably had the most fun on Assetto Corsa, to be honest.
What about UK?
I
Is
think
the one that sticks out?
I think arcadey game would be the original. Would be the original Need for Speed. And then there was the original Need for Speed, and then there was, I think it was High Stakes or was it Hot Pursuit, where it was based in Scotland or something like that. And I remember there were a couple of cars on there. They had like a Mercedes SLK and a BMW Z3, I think it was. Those are sort of the arcadey games that stick out for me. But again, in terms of sim racing, that sort of more realistic sort of car-based game would be Assetto Corsa, hands down. That had I think more of an impact than the Gran Turismo series. I
Yeah,
love the
I
Gran
think
Turismo series because it had like the Japanese cars, it had, like the European cars, American cars, etc., etc. But I think like 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 what like Neil said, I think in terms of like graphics, the car selection, I think Gran Turismo is fantastic. But in terms of just actually like sim racing or just racing, it, Assetto Corsa for me was, I
Yeah.
think, had more of an impact
I've
to
not.
me.
I have tried the F1 games, like
Mm.
like F1. I think it was F1 2020 onwards. I've tried one or two of them, but yeah, I think for that to get into that properly, I'd need a proper setup. Like with the proper wheel and everything.
Yeah.
It is really fast paced, but once you start getting into it, it is really good. Especially it can be frustrating as well because the realism of it with like the mechanical failures and the random stuff that happens. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a really really tough game. But yeah, now in terms of probably not on that like on that level, but yeah, the kind of like GT cars. And I think GT race car is always the nice thing about Assetto Corsa is like there were a lot of race cars that you could pick in the car selection, but I used to enjoy the non-race cars that you could pick
yeah,
because it was more like, okay, this is more realistic. And there was a massive difference. Like if you would race a race car on say the Nordschleife, like it's actually easier because that car is set up, but you'd just pick a normal everyday car and it was a handful and
Mm.
it is really realistic um in terms of the feedback that you get.
Was
But
there?
yeah, no.
Did you have a favorite soundtrack from any of them, or is there any game where you think, "Oh, I know we mentioned the soundtrack from some of the Mega
oh,
Drive games. Some people love like the classic soundtrack stuff. Was there any that jumped out that I was? I mean, FIFA. I always have it where I go for every. I've made a Spotify player, so I'm a FIFA soundtracks, but I don't class it as like the proper soundtrack. I felt like with the racing games, it was One Little Victory by Rush, which was on the Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. It was the soundtrack. I would sit there playing this game, driving fast paced, and the music just matched perfectly. But like, was there any that jump out to you, like any game that you think when you're playing it, not just like it looks incredible, like the sound as well?
and
Mm,
Sonic was definitely one of them because I just remember you used to turn like either it was the master, no, it would have been the Mega Drive, turn it Sega, and then that was the Sonic theme. That stands out to me. But I remember when playing like sort of Need for Speed, I think it was Hot Pursuit, I can't remember. Um, we always used to put like we used to have like a CD player in the back
Yeah.
and we used to put like our own music on or put it in the PC and like you wouldn't really have the game sound, but you'd have your music sound. So you're sort of like chilling driving.
I remember
so-
Riders on the Storm was one of the Need for Speeds,
oh
wasn't it?
yeah. Yeah,
And when you
yeah.
turned it on and that song
Yeah,
played straight
That
away,
was
you were there like,
that was Need for Speed Underground 2,
yeah,
Riders on the
yeah,
Storm. And I think because the first one had Get Low.
yeah.
That was the
yeah, yeah. That was
yeah
the underground, wasn't it?
that was the Underground one, Little
Uh,
John and the East Side Boys. Yeah, that
the
that was it.
yeah, yeah.
And then but I'm trying to think in terms of like I think one of the games that I enjoyed the most in for having uh just like listening for the in-game music was actually GTA 4
Yeah.
because you had the car radios and obviously you had the
Yeah, yeah,
different
yeah, yeah, yeah,
stations.
yeah.
And then I remember listening, you used to have like the hip hop stuff, we used to have like the
Reggae,
Cuban kind of like, the kind of
reggae,
yeah, and you had reggae and it was
cool.
great. You'd just be driving around, be like changing radio station, listening to that. And I think in terms of and they stepped it up obviously with like you used to have it in Vice City and San Andreas, but then it just got better and GTA 4 was a big turning point, and then GTA 5 obviously just got even better. But yeah, I think I'd say the GTA's for their music selection,
The radio, yeah, the
the
radio.
radio.
It was proper
Oh,
cruising,
Neil, do you
wasn't it?
remember?
Yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah,
cruise on it. No, Neil, I was going to say, do you remember Test Drive?
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
the
yeah.
game. That's one of the games that we used
No,
to play
sorry,
as
that was
well.
it. It was Test Drive. Yeah, that was the one where
Yeah,
you had that whole island, right? And you could just drive around it. Yeah.
Um, before I let you go, were there any other like sort of honorable mentions or any games you can think of that hasn't sort of fit? Was there any game that you used to play and that was sort of I
Do
don't
you
know,
know,
almost
I was thinking about it. I'm 100% sure there's many other games that I've played that I haven't mentioned. But I think some of the best experiences. I really enjoyed playing The Last of Us. That was a really good on not
did you watch the TV series that followed?
yeah yeah
What did you
yeah.
think of like the series related to the game?
Uh, I enjoyed the game more to be
Yeah.
honest.
I like the people that watch the series without playing the game, so they're completely blind to everything that's happening,
Yeah.
or what was gonna happen. No, because I was trying to think of like games I used to play that I'd never even think of. Like mine was stuff like, did we ever play Worms where there was a few of us playing Worms? I seem to have a memory of playing Worms,
Worms, was it
was it
Worms
Armageddon?
Armageddon? Yeah, yeah.
And like I remember playing that, and again, get a game that's so simple, but like there was did you play Vigilant 8? Did either of you
No.
play Vigilant 8? So that was it.
No.
That was I had this discussion with Herc when we were mentioning Rocket League that any game where it was a car doing something that wasn't driving,
Yeah.
I was always super interested in. Like the idea of just putting weapons on a car and then like Destruction Derby or whatever, anything like that.
Destruction Derby.
We
Yeah,
actually
that
played a
was
game.
great
Yeah, there was a game that we used to play, a Derby game that was good. But yeah, I mean, there's so many
Yeah.
I was just thinking, there's so many games that we've played and tried that don't necessarily stick out. But yeah, I'm just
I
excited to
remember
see.
playing track and field. I remember there was a track and field
Oh,
game.
I remember
I remember the Olympic
Beijing
game.
Remember
Olympic
like having to press the
Beijing
buttons to
Olympics.
run.
Beijing
The
Olympics is
Olympics,
that
yeah.
that
You
was a
press the
big
two buttons.
yeah,
When
That was
was eating.
competitive though.
that was competitive. Yeah, I
like you
remember.
said, you were triggering. If you're doing the long jump, you have to trigger like crazy, and then you have to press the things at the right point as they're
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
stick the landing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think in terms of like the types of games we've played all sorts. Like I wouldn't rule anything out when it comes to a game because yeah, it's just about the fun factor. And I really enjoy the games that you can play like local multiplayer games. I remember one that we used to play. I can't even remember the name of it. Do you remember the motocross one that would basically Miles, we used to play that all the time. That was one of the games we played at the library.
what's it called? Where at the end you do bailout.
You do a bailout, yeah,
Bailout
to
to
get
win.
over the line.
Oh,
That
that's going to annoy me.
that
and
was
I'm-
like that was one of the ultimate games. But like, yeah, that's a bit of a dying breed, like those kind of games that you can play 4-player local multiplayer.
Mm.
Oh yeah, do you
Well,
know which one I want about?
I'm
though, right?
trying to. I'm trying to.
That was it. It's called Trials.
Of course, it was. And yeah,
Trials,
you
yeah.
get towards the end, and but if you bailed out too early, you'd dive off your bike and just land short.
You've played this with Rusky, I think. It's a motocross game, and you go. It's like a side-scrolling one, but it is 3D, and you basically have to go through these obstacle kind of courses and different
I've done,
trials.
yeah.
And all that is
And
accelerate, deaccelerate, and lean forward, lean back. And
lean
that was it.
backwards. That was it. But
Yeah.
they had this thing called bailout, which means that you could jump off the bike to try and get in front of the finish, and everyone used to
Okay.
just try, like literally,
Like,
it was
jump off.
it was hilarious, right? Because as soon as you jump off the bike, it'd go into like ragdoll mode. So like you'd basically your arms are just flinging around and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, everyone would try and do it and just time it right because you just time the bailout, and then the end you just see about 5 people or 4 people, or this is a 4-player, all flinging across the line, and then if you stop short and hit the ground, you'd like lose. But yeah, that was one of the games that we spent a lot of time playing in the library.
I
I'm
But
gonna
think
have to
with
load that
games
back up.
now, I think with games now, everything that whole, like Neil just said, the whole thing of like your mates coming over to play, that doesn't really happen anymore. It's always, oh, do you want to go online?
yeah, that is true. Like a lot of gaming now is very much like everyone's alone sitting. Well, technically they're sitting in, on the computer with their
Keyboard
headset.
warriors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sort of thing. But yeah, I really enjoyed the games when you were in the room together, split screen sort of thing. Those were good days.
Different generations, though, isn't it? Like
True.
we're used to where you actually had to like knock on at your friend's house and stuff. You couldn't just ring them. You had to go and knock on
Yeah.
and do all that. And like I said, like people are lucky to a point where graphics wise, and we say games are easier to play now. Like competitively, it's different. Like the competitive levels shot up, where like the people's ability is unreal, and I get to see it whenever I'm involved with any of these sports, and when I see people streaming, like that level of it is unbelievable. But it's different to what we were used to, where like you said, like going around to someone's house and like we'd have it at the library where we'd play.
I thought about this the other day, and I think I was thinking about. I was like, why is it that people are so immersed now in terms of like the online experience? And I think it's I think it's because games are becoming so much involved in terms of almost like, if you log on to Battlefield, for example, like when we were playing Battlefield 42, the graphics are so realistic. The technology that we have now, like ultra wide monitors and all that kind of stuff. I mean, even VR, for example, people actually feel like they're you know, they're in
Yeah,
the
there.
game, like they're there. And obviously when you're playing with your mates and stuff and you're on voice chat and you know, you're following them around, it's like you're kind of virtually together. And I think because people get used to that kind of feeling, it's almost like it's no different, rather than like being in the same room with someone. You start to bridge the gap really of, you know, in the virtual world and in the real world. And it's really interesting to see how that kind of stuff happens, you know, how that develops in the future, especially with especially with VR moving forward, and even augmented reality, you know, like the kind of have you seen the Apple Pro kind of Vision Pro and all that kind of stuff? It is pretty crazy. So yeah, I think it's exciting to see what comes, but I just think it's a bit of a shift into terms how gaming, like, not people don't really just all go around to each other's houses to sit on the couch and just play, because it's not that same, like you can get that kind of that feeling of being in the same room with someone virtually.
Yeah, I
But
think
that's
I've had it where I say when people stream on Twitch, like I've said this to Neil all the time, that my gaming now is, I'm so lazy with it, where I won't sit there for hours. I mean, outside of Football Manager, I won't sit there for hours and end and play. But then I can watch someone play for hours and end and it'd be perfectly fine.
yeah. There's this guy I like watching on YouTube. His name's Super GT. He's like mainly sort of racing. He would be the only one I'd say that I would watch. But I mean, like it's so different now. Like me and Neil, we would play. Say for example, we played like Battlefield. We'd only play for what, 45 minutes to an hour
Yeah,
max,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's it.
true.
I'm done. I can't sit there and play like first person shoot 'em ups for hours and hours and hours and hours anymore. I can't do that. I can't game. I don't have that capacity to do it
To be
so long
fair,
anymore.
it's mostly because will play and then we'll get our asses handed to us like really badly, and then one of us will be like, right, I'm done, I can't play this anymore, and I'm off. That's what that's what normally happens. It's like the frustration. Like,
Yeah, like
we're not
was it last night or something, or the night before, like me and Neil were playing, and I was just getting my ass kicked. There was this one guy, and every time I just
he just
I
kept on
just get,
headshotting you.
yeah, and I remember I just kept on getting spawned right in the middle of like, and I remember there was this term that we used to use, like noobs. Those like noob tubes and all that stuff, and it was just like, oh
Noobs are
my
very
god,
much
and
still a thing, I can tell you. I still use noob all the time, just another word for rookie.
yeah. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. But do you know what? To be fair, like whenever me and Neil play like sort of Battlefield or anything online, we never we always mute everything, so we don't hear anyone else. It's just like me and him chatting.
Yeah, true. We don't get involved in the whole like game chat. We go on this.
No,
We've got like a Discord server, and we basically just load up that and jump in there, and then just do our own thing in a game. To be fair, but yeah,
Yeah.
no, it is good. It is good, and yeah, I'm interested to see what the future. I can't imagine we'll stop gaming. Like, you know.
yeah.
It's a downtime, it's a
I would
pastime,
have.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's an escape, really. I think you mentioned that on one of your podcasts
Yeah.
before. It's an escape. It's something I enjoy. Obviously not. I'm not as bothered as I was before. Like, oh, I need to have the new graphics card and this, that, the other, and this, that. You know, I'm not as fussed as I used to be years ago, but I still do enjoy it from time to time. I think mainly like if I'm playing like first person shoot 'em ups, I'd rather do it with someone. Like when I used to play Call of Duty, the way I used to play it was I would always have to do the story first, and then I'd go to online. But with the new one, it's just rubbish. But if I'm playing first person shoot 'em ups and I'm doing it online, I'm very, very rarely will I play it by myself. I'd always play with Neil.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome. Right. Well, I will say for a future episode, I am planning a car racing / car special. So I think I'll be having the two of you back on to go through I
Yeah.
plan to go through a bit by bit on each car game, and I know you guys will be able to put a lot more knowledge into it than myself. But I really appreciate you
Yeah,
coming on and
no
talking.
problem, Mars. Thanks for having us.
No
Very
problem
much,
at all.
Miles.
What I will do is, obviously, I will share both the accounts. It's different. Whereas I was going to say, oh, I'll share your Twitch channels and I'll share your YouTube's a little bit different, but I'll let people know where they can find you for future episodes as well. no doubt you'll be back on. And for anyone who's been listening / watching, again, appreciate it. I know you're taking time out of your busy lives to listen, but hopefully it's a little bit of a conversation that's a little bit different and something that you enjoy. And as always, just give me some feedback. And in the meantime, just keep gaming, guys.
Cheers, guys. Cheers, Miles.
Cheers, guys. Cheers, Miles. Thank you.